I chased the campus belle, Chloe, for 2 long years. And for 2 long years, she tested me. Just when we were finally on the verge of making our relationship official on my birthday, she abruptly posted an announcement on Instagram declaring she was dating another guy. Fuming with rage, I planned to confront her in person to get to the bottom of her betrayal. But, in the very next second, translucent lines of text suddenly floated across my field of vision, like live broadcast comments. Finally here. This is the heroine's final test. As long as the male lead passes this, what follows will be sweet and spicy couple content. She promised to officially date him on his birthday, but announced a relationship a month early just to test whether he would stay no matter what. No choice, she looks cool and elegant on the outside, but she's actually sensitive and fragile inside. We sensitive girls really need a partner who won't ever abandon us. Male-led, you have to pass this test. I stood frozen, staring at her intimate photos with another guy on Instagram. The smile on her face displayed a warmth and happiness I had never once seen during the 2 years I catered to her every whim. I gave a faint, mocking smile. I tapped the screen to like her post, deleted and blocked her on Snapchat and WeChat, and then published my own Instagram update. Fragile, sensitive, and addicted to playing head games. If you've got a mental problem, go see a psychiatrist. That night, Chloe blew up my phone. I had just blocked Chloe when the floating comment feed exploded again. Wait, did I see that right? The male lead actually blocked the female lead? Isn't he supposed to be begging her not to leave him? Poor girl. Her phone's practically on fire waiting for his message, and he just ghosted her completely. The guy's going way too far. She was just trying to test him a little, and he straight up blocked her and threw shade in his post. Watch, once he sees her getting lovey-dovey with the other guy, he'll fall right back in line. I had no idea how or why I was seeing these comments, but it wasn't hard to figure out. The male lead and female lead they were discussing were clearly me and Chloe. Were these commenters even sane? She went public with another guy, publicly humiliating and betraying me. And somehow I was the one supposed to go begging on my knees for forgiveness? Yes, I liked Chloe. But my sincerity was never something she had the right to test. Just a few days ago, I was eagerly probing her friends for hints about what she liked, trying to pick out the perfect birthday gift. Looking back at our chat history now, it was a wall of my own unanswered messages. Chloe barely ever replied. I kept comforting myself back then. Maybe she was just busy. Maybe she hadn't seen my texts. How laughable. She never took me seriously to begin with. My friends always called me a simp with principles. When I care about someone, I go all in without holding back. But when I decide to walk away, I cut things off clean, sharp, and without a shred of hesitation. By now, several friends had sent me screenshots of Chloe's Instagram, asking what happened or fishing for drama. I ignored every single one. That Instagram post I made might have been impulsive, but I had no intention of taking it down. Whatever Chloe thought after reading it was no longer my concern. If she didn't like it, she could call the cops. I turned off my phone, sat down at my desk, and focused entirely on memorizing IELTS vocabulary. Excessive emotional drama only gives you thyroid nodules. Expanding my vocabulary actually paved the way for my future career. By the time I left the library, the night sky was pitch black. I switched my phone back on, and dozens of missed call notifications popped up instantly. All from Chloe. This was the first time in 2 years she had ever taken the initiative to call me. Just as I was looking at the screen, her call came through again. I accidentally hit the answer button. A cold, composed voice came through the speaker. "You blocked me," I replied calmly. "Yeah, you were becoming an eyesore, so I deleted you." Silence fell over the line. Then her tone raised slightly. "What's wrong with you? Are you mad?" I let out a light chuckle. Why would I be mad? If you found your happiness, I'm happy for you. I wish you two the best. The moment the words left my mouth, I heard the sharp crunch of glass shattering on her end. Chloe's voice turned icy cold. "Ethan, do you even know what you're saying?" I enunciated every word slowly and firmly. "I do. Chloe, let's not contact each other ever again." A long silence followed before she spoke in an unreadable voice. "Ethan, you're just like the rest of them." Then she hung up. The comment feed instantly flared up again. What's going on? Weren't they supposed to start their sweet couple life after this? Why are they cutting ties? The male lead is being way too petty. The female lead loves him so much. Can't he just let her win for once? Exactly. If it were me and I had such a fragile, sensitive beauty, I'd love her no matter how dramatic she got. Am I the only one who thinks the female lead went way too far? In a relationship, trust is everything. Testing a guy like this is toxic. You don't get it. She turned out this way because her parents divorced when she was young. The male lead should have given her more love and security. Walking back to my dorm, I couldn't entirely shake the bitterness in my chest. When you truly care about someone for 2 years, letting go isn't completely painless. Her brother had mentioned her parents' divorce to me a year ago, which was why I had tolerated her cold behavior for so long. But the truth is, you should never try to save someone. You can't pull them out of their abyss. You'll only get dragged down with them. And as for those comments claiming Chloe loved me, I never felt it once. If she loved me, she wouldn't have ignored almost every message I sent for 2 years. She wouldn't have repeatedly forgotten our plans, leaving me waiting in the freezing snow outside a movie theater for 3 hours. She wouldn't have stood by in silence while her classmates mocked me, calling me a delusional loser, chasing out of my league. All I ever received from her was consistent indifference. True departure never happens in an instant. It happens when every last drop of hope has been systematically drained. Once trust is destroyed, peace is impossible. I had no desire to spend the rest of my life constantly explaining, proving, and apologizing for things I didn't do. The next morning, I went to class for a general elective course. Tyler, a wealthy trust fund kid, was sitting near the center of the room, surrounded by flatterers. He was the exact guy Chloe had posted as her new boyfriend online, making him the center of attention. The moment I walked into the classroom, the lively chatter died down completely. Dozens of eyes turned to me, some mocking, some provocative, others sympathetic. I ignored them and took an empty seat. Seconds later, a guy sitting behind me sneered loud enough for the row to hear. I thought a certain clown would be crying under his covers today and wouldn't dare show his face. Didn't expect his skin to be this thick. I turned around, leaning back in my chair. Interesting. Why assume I'd have a breakdown? Don't tell me you're the one secretly obsessed with Chloe, crying yourself to sleep last night because she picked someone else? The guy's face flushed bright red. He glanced nervously at Tyler and stammered, "Don't talk nonsense. You think everyone's as shameless as you?" I laughed softly. At least I'm not a coward. When I like someone, I pursue them openly. You, on the other hand, don't even have the guts to admit your own feelings. You! He was choked up with rage, pointing a trembling finger at me. Tyler frowned, cutting in with an authoritative voice. That's enough. All of you quiet down. He gave the guy a subtle look of disdain, then stood up and walked over to my desk. Putting on a noble, righteous posture, he smiled down at me. Ethan, I don't care what happened between you and Chloe in the past, but she's my girlfriend now. I hope you'll stop clinging to her and harassing her. Can we agree on that? His loud, deliberate words immediately stirred up, whispering among our classmates. Clinging? Is he saying Ethan's been bothering Chloe even after she got a boyfriend? That's beyond creepy. He chased after the other campus beauty before too. He's definitely the obsessive, pest type. Honestly, guys like that deserve a beatdown. I looked up at Tyler calmly. I haven't approached or contacted Chloe a single time since you two posted that announcement. Tyler nodded quickly, keeping his saintly facade. Yes, you haven't yet today. As long as you promise not to keep harassing my girlfriend, I can pretend nothing happened before. Otherwise, the floating comments popped up again. Tyler is such a manipulative jerk. Can the male lead just slap him already? Honestly, compared to this side guy, the male lead is way more decent. At least he's upfront about everything. Tyler's carefully chosen words sounded like he was taking the high road, but they were designed to frame me as a pathetic stalker trying to steal his girlfriend. The few classmates who had felt sorry for me earlier now glared at me with pure disdain. I knew explaining wouldn't change their mindlessly gossiping minds. I was honestly considering just standing up and breaking his jaw right then and there. Right at that moment, footsteps sounded at the door, and Chloe walked in. I had almost forgotten that we had registered for this general elective together back when I was still trying to take every class with her. She looked exhausted, her eyes red-rimmed, as her gaze locked onto me. I looked back at her, expecting that she might at least have the decency to set the record straight. But Chloe said nothing. She remained completely silent. The comment feed went wild. Ah, the destined couple! Male lead, go apologize to her. Just say sorry and she'll dump the side guy and declare she's yours. She didn't sleep all night and she's falling apart. Can't he just be the bigger person and apologize first? Wait, what? This comment section is insane. The girl cheated and publicly humiliated him, and y'all want him to apologize? Is this brain rot? In the end, I didn't say a word. I lowered my eyes and quietly packed my notebooks into my bag. Chloe let out a soft, bitter scoff as she passed my desk, deliberately walking over to sit directly next to Tyler. Tyler gave me a smug, triumphant smirk, then casually slung his arm around Chloe's shoulders. Chloe didn't push him away. That single action sealed my reputation in their eyes. Within hours, rumors that I was harassing someone else's girlfriend spread like wildfire across campus, even making it onto the university forum. When I walked down the hallways, people pointed and whispered. When major group projects were assigned, nobody wanted to partner with me. I didn't care. I worked alone. Group projects usually ended up being solo efforts anyway. Over the weekend, I went home for dinner. During the meal, my parents brought up expanding their business overseas into said. They had mentioned it months ago, wanting to take me abroad so I could complete my degree and gain international experience. Back then, I had firmly refused because I couldn't bear to leave Chloe behind. Now, considering the environment at school, I saw no reason to stay. Given the choice, nobody wants to sit around being the target of public slander. Dad, Mom? I said, setting my chopsticks down. I'm ready to study abroad. My parents were overjoyed. My father was already planning to establish a permanent branch overseas, and neither of them wanted to be separated from their only son. When do you want to head over? My mother asked eagerly. We can finalize the visa paperwork immediately. How about the 15th of next month? My dad suggested, looking at his calendar. My hand holding my glass paused for a fraction of a second. The 15th of next month was Chloe's birthday, the exact day she had promised we would officially become a couple. My mother noticed my brief pause. Is that date inconvenient, Ethan? We can push it back if you have plans. I smiled gently and shook my head. No need. That day works perfectly. Back on campus, I filled out my study abroad transfer application and prepared to hand it over to my academic advisor. Just as I stepped out of the dorm building, I ran straight into Chloe. Since Tyler lived in the same residential complex, I had been running into her frequently. The two of them were practically attached at the hip lately, eating together, walking around campus, going to classes. The cold, distant, goddess persona she had maintained with me for 2 years seemed to have vanished entirely around him. Chloe lifted her eyes, giving me a chilly, expectant look, as if waiting for me to walk up and initiate a conversation like I used to. I walked right past her without a second glance. Before I could take 3 steps, she reached out and tightly grabbed the cuff of my sleeve. Her eyes darted down, locking onto the bold header of the paper in my hand. Application for overchastity transfer. Her voice trembled slightly. "What's that in your hand?" I frowned, trying to pull my arm back. "Can't you read?" Chloe bit her lower lip hard, her gaze searching my face in disbelief. "You're going abroad?" I wasn't in the mood for useless small talk. My advisor's office hours ended in 20 minutes, so I grabbed her wrist, trying to pry her fingers off my jacket. "What the hell are you doing to my girlfriend?" a loud voice shouted. Tyler marched out of the dorm entrance. Seeing me holding Chloe's wrist, his face twisted in anger. Chloe completely ignored Tyler. Her eyes remained glued to mine, tears welling up in the corners. "Are you really leaving?" Tyler caught up to us, saw the application form, and suddenly let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Chloe, don't let him fool you." Chloe loosened her grip slightly, looking at Tyler in confusion. "Fool me?" Tyler sneered, looking at me with pure contempt. Our department only received a single official exchange slot this semester, and Professor Miller already awarded it to the top student in our class last week. Whatever form Ethan's holding is just an expired printout from last month. He's just pulling a fake drama stunt to get your attention. Hearing that, the tension on Chloe's face instantly melted away. She let go of my sleeve completely. I glanced down at my cuff. She had yanked it so hard that the stitching along the edge had unraveled. Chloe had always been like this. The moment her emotions flared up, she lost all composure and acted without regard for anything around her. I met her gaze. Chloe let out a cold snort, her arrogant demeanor returning in full force. "Ethan," she said softly, a hint of patronizing pity returning to her voice. "Is this really the only pathetic way you can think of to get my attention now? Or did you finally realize you can't forget me? I'll give you another chance." The floating comments buzzed. Male lead! "She's giving you an opening. Take it." Poor Chloe. She's been thinking about him for days. If she doesn't put her pride away, she's going to lose him. I looked at Chloe's self-righteous expression, then at Tyler's smug face, and suddenly burst out laughing. "Chloe," I said, my voice echoing clearly in the courtyard, "do you honestly think I'm going to spend the rest of my life chasing after you like a brainless simp?" Chloe's expression froze instantly. Without waiting for her response, I turned and walked away toward the administration building. Tyler wasn't entirely wrong. Our department did only have one exchange slot. But my transfer wasn't through the department's public quota. My family had arranged an independent international program through Professor Miller, my father's lifelong friend. That evening, as I was working on my thesis in the dorm, my phone buzzed with a series of incoming images from an unknown number. I opened them. They were sent from Tyler. I had blocked Chloe, but I hadn't bothered blocking his number earlier. The photos showed Tyler and Chloe inside a dimly lit VIP booth at a nightclub. Chloe's face was flushed red, her eyes hazy from alcohol, leaning heavily against Tyler's chest while he held a drink to her lips. I stared at the image for 2 seconds, then blocked Tyler's number without a word. The comment feed flickered back to life. "Don't fall for his tricks. Male-led. He sent those photos on purpose to break you. Chloe was just upset over what you said this morning, so she went drinking. She got taken advantage of because she was drunk. Tyler tried to kiss her earlier, and she pushed him away. She's a good girl. She's literally crying your name right now." I let out a cold scoff reading those comments. A good girl? To me, no matter how upset she was, a decent person wouldn't go drinking late at night in a club with a guy who clearly had ulterior motives, using it as another sick test of my loyalty. Now that I had stepped out of the role of her devoted pursuer, the goddess halo around Chloe had completely shattered. All that remained were glaring red flags and toxic behavior. She was slowly rotting away in my memory. In the weeks that followed, I treated Chloe and Tyler like complete strangers whenever I saw them around campus. Several times, I heard Chloe call my name from behind, but I walked on without stopping. According to dorm gossip, their relationships wasn't going smoothly. People noticed Tyler chasing after Chloe in the hallways, while she walked ahead with a cold, irritated expression, ignoring his calls. I had zero interest in their drama. I just wanted to finish my final paperwork and leave peacefully. One afternoon, while I was organizing study notes in a quiet corner of the library, someone set an insulated breakfast box on my desk. I looked up and met Chloe's awkward, hesitant gaze. She quickly turned her head away and huffed. I accidentally bought too much breakfast this morning. It'd be a waste to throw it out. You can have it. I looked into the container, 2 soft-boiled eggs, and a basket of steamed soup dumplings. It was the exact breakfast I used to wake up at 6 a.m. to buy for her every single day for 2 years. There was a time when I genuinely hoped that my dedication would touch her heart. But now, it just looked pathetic. I slid the box right back across the table to her. I've already eaten. Chloe frowned, her voice rising in frustration. Ungrateful much? Fine. If you don't want it, throw it in the trash. Without a second of hesitation, I picked up the breakfast box, walked over to the large disposal bin by the library door, and dropped it straight inside. Chloe stood frozen, her face turning pale, then flushed with embarrassment. She gritted her teeth and hissed, "Ethan! You've really grown a backbone, haven't you? Mark my words. From now on, no matter how much you beg me, I will never give you another chance." She stormed out of the library, revealing Tyler, who had been lurking near the bookshelves behind her. Tyler marched up to my table, glaring furiously. "Ethan, I fucking warned you. Why are you still messing with my girlfriend?" I didn't even look up from my notebook. "Go get your head checked, Tyler. You piece of shit," he snarled. "I won't let you off that easily." The very next morning, when I entered the classroom, a large crowd was gathered near the front rows. Chloe was pushing Tyler into the room in a wheelchair. Tyler's left leg was wrapped in a thick plaster cast, his face covered in dark bruises, his arm tightly bandaged. Classmates quickly surrounded them, gasping in shock. "Tyler, what happened to you?" someone asked. Tyler, his voice hoarse and weak, looked down sorrowfully. "Last night, someone ambushed me near the east gate. They beat me up, broke my leg, and locked me in a maintenance bathroom all night. I barely made it out alive." The crowd erupted in outrage. "That's assault. Who did that to you? We need to call the police." Tyler slowly lifted his eyes and pointed a trembling hand directly at me. The entire classroom turned to look at me. Chloe stepped forward, looking at me with deep disappointment and tears in her eyes. "Ethan, I never thought you could be so vicious. How could you do something like this to Tyler just out of jealousy?" I closed my laptop and stood up calmly. "Why are you so sure it was me? Do you have any actual proof?" Chloe replied indignantly. "Tyler saw the attacker with his own eyes." "What more proof do you need?" Classmates chimed in furiously. "Exactly. Would Tyler break his own leg just to frame you? That's psychopathic. Calling the police is too light for him." Meanwhile, the floating comment feed flashed above their heads. "Damn. This side character is insane. He locked himself in the bathroom and paid a crooked doctor to give him a fake cast. His father is a department director at the university hospital, so he got a fake diagnosis. There were no cameras in that hallway, so he's using it to frame the male lead." I looked cold-eyedly at Tyler. "So you're claiming I personally broke your leg and locked you in the restroom at 8 p.m. last night?" Tyler avoided my gaze, rubbing his temples nervously. "Yes, I saw you." Chloe stepped protectively in front of Tyler's wheelchair, as if afraid I might attack him. "Ethan, what's the point of lying now? The facts are right here." Don't make things worse for yourself. I smiled faintly. All right. Since a crime was committed, let's call the police right now and let the detectives investigate the scene and forensics. The moment I mentioned the police, Tyler's face drained of color. Even Chloe hesitated for a second before saying, Ethan, we all know calling the police will go on your permanent record and ruin your future. Tyler is very forgiving. If you apologize right now, pay his medical bills, and take care of him until his leg heals, he won't press charges. Classmates nodded in agreement. Tyler is way too generous to a scumbag like you. I let out a sharp sneer. Apologize for something I didn't do, and serve him hand and foot? I can give him a cup of piss if he's thirsty, though. Want some? Ethan! Chloe yelled, her face red with anger. You broke his leg and you're still acting this arrogant! Without another word, I reached out, grabbed a heavy wooden classroom chair beside me, lifted it high into the air, and swung it with full force directly at Tyler's head. The entire room gasped in horror. No one had time to react. Just as the solid wood chair was inches away from smashing into his skull, Tyler's broken leg suddenly kicked off the floor, and he leaped out of the wheelchair with incredible agility, vaulting sideways onto a nearby desk. The heavy chair smashed into the empty wheelchair, throwing it across the floor with a deafening crash. Tyler stood on top of the desk, chest heaving, shouting in panic. Ethan, are you fucking insane? Chloe froze, her jaw dropping as she stared at Tyler standing firmly on two perfectly healthy legs. Tyler? Your leg? I lowered my hands and clapped slowly. Nice reaction time, Tyler. Friendly tip, next time you fake an injury to frame someone, go with a concussion. A fake broken leg is way too easy to expose. Tyler's face turned from pale to purple. Chloe looked at him in utter disbelief, but then turned back to me, trying desperately to save face. Even if his leg wasn't broken, you still locked him in the bathroom last night. George didn't lock anyone anywhere last night. A clear, authoritative voice spoke from the doorway. Everyone turned. Professor Miller, the head of the Foreign Languages Department, was standing at the door holding a manila folder. Ethan was at my house from 6 p.m. until midnight yesterday, reviewing my advanced research materials for his study abroad application. Professor Miller said sternly, My living room has a 24-hour security camera that recorded our entire session. Would anyone like to review the footage? The classroom fell dead silent. Tyler collapsed back onto the desk, his face completely ghost white. Chloe stood rooted to the spot, unable to utter a single word. 10 minutes later, campus security and local police arrived, escorting all of us to the dean's office. Once the security footage verified my complete alibi, the police officer turned to me. Since his false accusation didn't result in physical detention or financial loss for you, the legal penalty for his defamation would be up to 5 days of administrative detention and a 500 yuan fine. I frowned slightly, unsatisfied. The dean, anxious to avoid a massive public scandal that would damage the university's reputation, especially since Chloe was scheduled to represent the school in an upcoming national competition, tried to mediate. Ethan, since no real harm was done to you, how about we handle this internally? You can demand whatever reasonable compensation or public restitution you want from them. I raised an eyebrow. Whatever restitution I want. I walked directly over to where Tyler and Chloe were standing. Smack! 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 I put the full weight of my body into 4 brutal slaps, striking both Tyler and Chloe twice across the face. The impact sent Tyler stumbling to the floor, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He tried to spring up in a rage, but 2 campus officers immediately pinned him down. Chloe clutched her swollen cheek, staring at me with wide, tear-filled, pitiful eyes, putting on her helpless act. It made me feel thoroughly disgusted. I turned back to the police officer and dean. I won't press criminal defamation charges, but Tyler and Chloe must write a formal, handwritten letter of confession and read it aloud over the university's public PA system during lunch tomorrow. Agreed. Completely agreed, the dean said instantly. I pointed at Tyler and added, "Also, officer, I strongly suggest you investigate the hospital medical report he provided. His father is a department director there." Falsifying official medical records and police reports involves public corruption and professional fraud. The police officer's expression turned stern. "We will conduct a thorough investigation into the medical facility immediately." Hearing that, Tyler's knees gave out entirely, and he slumped onto the floor, blubbering in panic. No, no, my dad had nothing to do with this. Don't investigate the hospital." The officers dragged him out of the room while he screamed. The floating comment feed flashed brightly. "Holy shit!" That was so satisfying. Finally, a male lead who throws hands instead of crying in a corner. Miss? The author literally changed the novel tag from romance to power fantasy. I walked out of the administration building alongside Professor Miller. Chloe stood near the glass doors, looking as though she wanted to say something. But I walked past her as if she were invisible. Over the next few weeks, I rarely saw her around campus, but occasionally, I could feel a pair of eyes watching me from the shadows. Whenever I turned around, no one was there. On the day before my flight, I finished packing my final luggage at the dorm and walked down the street to grab dinner. At a quiet street corner, a slender figure stepped out from behind a tree, blocking my path. She kept her eyes lowered, unable to meet my gaze, her voice barely a whisper. I broke up with Tyler." I gave her a cold glance, and moved to walk around her. She quickly stepped in front of me again, looking up with trembling eyes. "Tomorrow is my birthday. Will you come? I prepared a surprise for you." She paused, her ears turning bright red as she added softly, "I'll be wearing that white dress you bought for me." In the past, seeing her act like this would have filled me with joy. But now, I felt nothing. "We'll see," I said casually, not wanting to waste time arguing, and walked past her. The next afternoon, I was sitting in the International Departure Lounge at the airport with my parents. My phone, sitting on the table, vibrated continuously. Chloe's name flashed across the screen over 10 times. My mother looked at the buzzing phone nervously. "Ethan, aren't you going to answer that? What if it's something urgent from school?" I smiled, shook my head, declined the call, and turned off the phone completely, slipping it into my coat pocket. Over the airport loudspeakers, the boarding call for our flight rang out. My parents and I stood up and headed toward the gate. I felt no regret, no sadness, only a sense of absolute freedom. Months later, through mutual acquaintances, I learned what had happened that day. Chloe had invited dozens of our classmates and professors to a high-end restaurant, wearing the white dress I had bought her, intending to publicly announce that she was accepting my confession and becoming my girlfriend. When my friend told her that I had already boarded an international flight and left the country permanently, she froze in complete disbelief. She tried calling me frantically over a dozen times, only to realize I had turned off my phone and cut all ties. Desperate, she ran out of the restaurant into a pouring rainstorm, trying to hail a taxi to the airport to beg me to stay. But no cab would stop for her in the storm. In the end, she could only collapse onto the wet pavement, sobbing bitterly in her drenched white dress as our classmates watched in silence. After arriving abroad, I replaced my SIM card and cut off all contact with that past life. 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. During my time abroad, I completed my degree in finance with top honors and joined my family's corporation. I spent every vacation interning at our overseas branches, taking on real responsibilities. My parents gave me full authority to manage major investment portfolios. And through years of hard work, I earned the deep respect of the board of directors. At 27, I returned to China as the executive head of my company's venture capital division. At an international fashion trade expo in the capital, our division was evaluating promising design firms. I, s- I selected a high potential fashion brand to lead our flagship investment. Coincidentally, the chief designer of that brand was Chloe. When we met in the executive conference room, Chloe froze, as if she had seen his ghost. Her eyes turned red instantly, and her hand trembled violently as she reached out to shake mine. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice choking up. I maintained a polite, professional smile, shaking her hand briefly. "Here's to a successful partnership, Mrs. Liu." Later that evening, after the trade exhibition concluded, I stepped out of the venue's VIP restroom into an empty hallway. Suddenly, a figure rushed forward and threw her arms tightly around my waist, burying her face into my chest. "Ethan! I missed you so much. I thought I'd never see you again?" Chloe sobbed hysterically. I didn't hesitate for a single second. I grabbed her shoulders and forcefully shoved her away, sending her tumbling onto the floor. Chloe sat on the floor, looking up at me in absolute shock and horror. "Ethan, you pushed me?" I sneered down at her. "Damn right I did." "Are you out of your mind, Miss Liu? This is a professional venue." She bit her lip, her eyes filled with wounded pride. If you don't care about me anymore, why did you choose to invest millions into my design project?" "Because of money," I replied coldly. "Your brand's market valuation and profit projections were the highest among all applicants. I'm a venture capitalist. I invest in profitable assets, not personal feelings. Don't flatter yourself." Chloe's face turned deathly pale. "Ethan, I know I was wrong back then. Tyler manipulated me. He promised that if I tested you, it would prove your absolute loyalty. I didn't know he sent those photos, and I didn't know he framed you." I let out a mocking laugh. "And was it also his idea for you to stay silent in class while everyone called me an assaulter? Was it his idea for you to demand I serve him hand and foot?" Chloe choked on her words, stammering frantically. I just wanted you to bow your head to me. I wanted you to prove you loved me above everything else." "You let another guy into your life, turned me into a campus joke, and threw my dignity in the dirt," I said, stepping closer and looking down at her. "Don't you find yourself both pathetic and absurd?" Chloe shook her head, crying, reaching out to grab my hem, but at that moment, a loud crash echoed outside the hotel entrance. Bang! A sleek, crimson Ferrari had rear-ended Chloe's white Porsche, parked near the valet curb. The Ferrari door opened, and a stunning woman in a glittering evening gown and sunglasses stepped out. It was Serena, the sole heiress of the powerful shoe conglomerate, a major rival and business partner in our industry. Serena took off her sunglasses, revealing sharp, captivating eyes. She looked at Chloe's crushed bumper, then let out a light, careless laugh. "Oops. Sorry, Miss Liu, my foot slipped. I'll have my assistant buy you a new car tomorrow." Though her words sounded like an apology, her expression showed zero remorse. Chloe glared at her furiously, but before she could speak, the host of the expo, a wealthy heir who was an old friend of mine, hurried out to see what happened. Seeing Serena and me standing together, my friend grinned and leaned over to whisper in my ear. "Bro, Serena's shoe? Is she your new target? Nice upgrade from your college days." I smiled faintly, shrugging. "Still considering it." My friend gave me a major thumbs up. Absolute legend. The next day, headlines across local business media were plastered with photos of Serena and Chloe facing off outside the hotel. Netizens went crazy in the comment sections, framing it as a high society rivalry over the Bachelor of the Year. The floating comment feed appeared one final time before my eyes as, "Mal lead is such a boss now." He completely crushed the toxic female lead and rebuilt his own empire. This is a true Sigma grind set. Take control of your own life and never be anyone's simp. That afternoon, Serena met me at a private lounge to discuss our upcoming joint venture in the Southern District land development. "I helped you clear out that annoying ex-girlfriend girlfriend yesterday, Serena said, swirling her wine glass with a sultry smile. How are you going to thank me, Ethan? I want to see your attitude, I chuckled softly. Attitude is the line I hate the most. Giving nothing is an attitude, giving a little is too little, giving more is never enough. Let me be clear, the Southern District commercial contract is yours. Strictly business. No games. Serena pouted slightly, looking at me with deep intrigue, but didn't push further. She smiled, signed the partnership papers, and walked away elegantly. As I left the lounge, Chloe was waiting near the entrance in the rain, looking pale and frail. She ran up to me, her voice breaking. Ethan! If I promise to change, if I go to therapy and fix all my flaws, will you please give me one more chance? I stopped and looked at her calmly. Chloe, no one should change themselves for someone else. We are only responsible for our own lives. I only became like this because of my childhood trauma, she cried, grabbing her chest. My parents' divorce made me terrified of abandonment. That's why I tested you. I don't care what hurt you in the past. I cut her off firmly. Whether it was childhood wounds or heartbreak, I didn't cause it, and I am not responsible for carrying your baggage. I never hurt you. So don't bring your trauma to guilt trip me. Chloe clutched her hands together, tears streaming down her face. I chased you. You chased me for 2 years. How can you just throw it all away? Because I care about myself more than I care about you, I answered clearly. What you wanted was never a partner. You wanted a personal servant who would orbit around you and tolerate your abuse to satisfy your insecurities. I am not that guy. Chloe stood frozen in the rain, completely shattered, sobbing in utter despair as she realized that no matter what she said or did, I would never look back. I turned my back on her weeping figure and walked out into the evening air. Parked at the curb was my black Lamborghini, its sleek frame reflecting the glowing city lights. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and gripped the leather steering wheel. The engine roared to life with a powerful, deep hum. Looking through the windshield at the vast, open highway stretching into the sunrise ahead, a quiet sense of absolute fulfillment washed over me. The steering wheel was firmly in my own hands. Wherever I chose to drive from here on out was entirely up to me.